Hello, welcome to AI with GenAI. I'm your host, GennAI. Today, I'm delighted to welcome Dr. Paul Dongha to the podcast. Dr. Paul is a pioneering figure in the transformational potential of AI and stands at the forefront of integrating AI within financial services, championing an approach that harmonizes technological advancement with corporate integrity, sustainability, and the responsible use of AI. With a career spanning over 30 years, Paul has cultivated a reputation for visionary leadership, guiding organizations in seizing AI opportunities, whilst maintaining a steadfast commitment to ethical principles. Paul is the first bank-wide head of responsible AI and AI strategy at one of the UK's largest banks, leading a dedicated team of ethics practitioners and pioneering responsible AI in the UK, while he's based in London. Paul has a PhD in artificial intelligence and a master's and bachelor's of science in computer science, and more recently has taught generative AI at Harvard Business School. Thank you for joining us today, Paul.
Oh, lovely to be here, Jen.
So we've heard such an impressive resume, how you've taught AI and generative AI, how you've worked in this area for so many years. But let's go behind your bio. Tell us a bit more of what led you to bringing that more human-centered side of responsible AI and ethical AI.
Well, Jen, I was quite late in my career, actually. I'd worked in financial services for some years, building IT systems and big data systems and so on and so forth. And it was about 2018-19 when I realized that AI was really gaining traction. We were using it more and more, and it was gaining popularity around the world. And I came to realize there's going to be no end of really smart engineers building powerful systems that are going to impact everybody. But how many people are really focusing on the risks of AI and their deficiencies and the potential harms that can come about from AI? It was a moment when I just went, my goodness, someone's really got to get a hold of this topic and really look at it. I have the benefit of having the technical background, so I actually realized how those systems work. I kind of have first-hand experience of knowing where they will fall short. I just dedicated the rest of my career to being in responsible and ethical AI, which I think is just so important.
Well, thanks for that. And it's a great segue to our trio here of the questions we ask of every participant in our podcast, because we're talking about how your experience on the technical side and then financial services and kind of life experience of bringing that together, we're seeing it shape so many different industries. How are you seeing it most shape either financial services or interest areas in sustainability and environment? Tell us more there of how you see it shaping those industries.
Well, I think in financial services, it's already having an impact and that will continue to grow. So we are seeing the use of AI as helping knowledge workers using systems like ChatGPT. And there are many ChatGPT-like models out there from big tech companies and from model development companies. And these are used so we can have assistance when we do our day-to-day work. So if you're a typical worker in a bank, you'll be looking at a screen, copying data, searching, sorting, filtering, extracting data, copying it from one place to another place. So a lot of that kind of knowledge work and data-intensive work really lends itself to those kind of technologies, your ChatGPT-like models. So there are many opportunities to really automate many aspects of the jobs those knowledge workers do, to not only automate, to do them quicker, to potentially do them more accurately. And some of those activities are really quite mundane, right? They're quite regular. We do them all the time, and they're not particularly fulfilling. And AI has a real potential there to uplift our daily work. And I hope alleviate some of the tedium, and that time can be used to do something either more productive or activities that we haven't got time for, or new things that would be even more impactful. So I'm seeing it as a knowledge worker assistant for day-to-day activities. There's another big area, a massive area where it's being used, and that's in software development. So many organizations, including financial services organizations, they employ lots of engineers, lots of data scientists, machine learning engineers, programmers, and developers. We've got models out there, ChatGPT-like models, that are particularly suited to writing programming code. What a developer can do is type a prompt and ask the AI to write some code that does A, B, C, D, and E. That prompt is expressed in English, and what comes out is a whole load of programming code. And in some cases, thousands of lines of code. So you can see almost instantly, like, wow, that is a real way of uplifting productivity in the software engineering practice. And it's any software engineering. It's not just using AI-generated code for building AI. It's using AI generated code for code that's used anywhere. And we're seeing technology companies doing that. And we're seeing companies like financial services, consultancies, even legal companies as well. So those are two big areas. But I think, moreover, there are other kind of almost bigger areas where GenAI is going to help. So one example is financial crime and fraud. Now, if customers think they've been defrauded or victims of financial crime, some organizations are now using AI within their own company to go to different data sources and to gather together information that's going to help the organization help the customer with a particular fraud case. And that's really automating a lot of data, again, data gathering, data filtering and sorting, helping people who are outside of an organization, which are customers, get to the right thing. I think that's going to be a big one. And finally, I think this is going to take a little bit longer, but it's going to be hugely impactful. And that's using AI to personalize interactions with customers. So we all use the web. We all go online for our banking needs, insurance needs, whatever it is. And I think creating an experience for customers that's personalized to what they want and how they want that information delivered so that those products they see online are more relevant, interesting, and potentially really, really useful for them. So I think personalizing interactions with people is going to be another big thing. For example, many apps on your phone, for many banks, and it doesn't have to be just banks, but for many other organizations, they're the same for everybody. It kind of strikes me as odd in this day and age that everything should be the same for absolutely every customer. You can see how it could be tailored in different languages, the web experience or the app experience. It could be in a different tone, a different style. You could have products that are only relevant to that particular customer for the things they most want to see. I think that kind of possibility is really, really close. There's engineering to do behind it, but AI is going to be central to personalization.
I love that. I love the personalization opportunity of AI. But going back to one of your first examples around fraud detection and fraud analysis, that some people can see AI as just causing risk, but less often we speak about, well, AI can really help us identify these risks as well at the same time, which leads very well then to the second question of the ethical and regulatory challenges. Which ones are the ones either that keep you up at night or you feel that we're not addressing sufficiently at the moment?
Well, that's a big question. So I'll try and be brief. I think the one, and it's talked about a lot, in generative AI, there's a term called hallucinations. So people will say AI hallucinates. So hallucination refers to when an AI system like ChatGPT gives a response and some of it's just factually incorrect. It's potentially made up. There've been many examples of this. Now, those AI systems are getting better and hallucinations are occurring sometimes less often, but in other cases, it's just cropping up all over the place. The real awkward thing about hallucinations is you can't engineer them out of the AI. The thing that makes AI so powerful also as a side effect produces this issue. It's kind of two sides of the same coin. The technical architecture of ChatGPT is something called a transformer model. And a transformer model works by ingesting lots and lots of text. In fact, a lot of these models have been trained on most of the data that's on the internet. So if you think of Wikibooks, Wikipedia, just articles, just all over the web, those models have been trained on all of the words that are there and the sequences of words that are there. So when it operates, it's working off these probabilities. It's very hard to predict what the AI system is going to come out with in its response. So it's very unpredictable. And what that means is these hallucinations sometimes occur. They're just mistakes, right? Hallucinations is a term that some people have given to it, but they're just mistakes. Engineering those out in the system is really, no one's got a solution to that. What a lot of companies do is they trap a response coming from their AI system, it's a GenAI system, and then they check it before releasing that response, either to customers or to other people within the organization. So that one does keep me up at night because there just isn't a neat solution. There isn't an all-encompassing solution. There's just checking. And often it's humans checking, right? You can't even automate the checking for hallucinations. In many cases, you can't. So I think that's one. And the other one, and you kind of mentioned it in the previous question, is the whole sustainability of it. AI systems are really harmful to the environment. They're harmful because they're very compute intensive. So there's a lot of computation in just generating one ChatGPT response. It's actually vast. There are hundreds of millions of billions of calculations When I say calculations, I mean multiplications, right? For those technical listeners that you have, just to generate one response. So when you start from it, when you look at all of the people that will be using generative AI in the future, the data centers that house the servers that run those models, they're going to grow. And the forecasts, you can read them, right? They're massive. So the electricity consumed by those data centers is going to shoot up. And the carbon emissions from those data centers that are powered by fossil fuel power sources, that's going to increase as well. There are also water is used to cool data centers. There's going to be a strain in some areas on water depletion. So I think the environmental harms of generative AI need to be looked at. And I'm really glad people are talking about this. I get asked it literally every day. It's what's top of mind for people. And they're like, oh, what about sustainability? So I think in my profession and what I'm doing is really thinking about that really carefully to see how we as organizations that develop AI can do so in a sustainable way, and that we work with tech companies so they too pay attention to this. There's lots of good things happening there as well, but I think that word needs to continue.
Well, there are two great ones there. I know a lot of our listeners would know about the idea of AI hallucinating and the issues with that. And I know some people are calling that confabulation because the concerns of hallucination is a very human thing. And do we want to be anthropomorphizing how we describe this? But you're right that it's errors, it's inaccuracy, it's the inability to trust that what comes out of these systems is going to be accurate, factual, truthful. And how can we use that then if we don't know, oh, one day it's correct, the next day it's not, and how, and in which situations, and how to understand that? And then on the sustainability side, you're right. I get asked a lot about the environmental footprint. I do think the water one had not been discussed sufficiently before. I think it's increasingly being recognized. It's not just an energy cost, it is a water cost as well. But I'm still not sure, especially kind of at national levels, when I read about approvals for data centers, I'm reading about where a lot of these data centers, because of the space needs, are being built in some of the most water-stressed areas of the world and within countries, within regions that are hugely water-stressed. And I'm not sure those local communities have been engaged in those conversations, but I'm also not sure if people are fully being accurate of the implications of these data centers. And yes, they will provide construction jobs for a short amount of time, but they don't actually provide a lot of full-time employment either. So what is the ROI or the cost benefit of having these large data centers when they have that environmental footprint? But I'll try and end on the optimistic note you did as well, because AI can also be used to address some of these environmental issues. And you talked about some of those before, but it is by taking action and being very aware of those implications of the technology.
Absolutely.
So as we continue on that path, where do you see us getting to our crystal ball section of in 2050? And I know people both hate and laugh at the question of how can we possibly predict it? But what is the future that you hope we're building, or what future you think we're actually going to get to? So talk us a little bit through your thinking of 2050, what it looks like.
Yeah, that's a tough question, Jen, but I'll give it a go. I think, well, the spoiler alert is going to be utopian rather than dystopian, right? So I'll get to the punchline straight away. And what gives me that confidence? I think despite all of the risks and, fabulations, hallucinations, data leaks, automating everything, the lack of human contact, because we will probably use AI a lot more. So there are many, many impacts to society and potentially to jobs, like those people who are afraid of losing their careers to AI. But I think if AI is steered in the right way, it has to be actively managed. I don't think it's just going to come at this utopian vision is just going to come about if we just leave it on its own course and trajectory and so on. So I think everyone has to play a part in ensuring that AI is deployed and used for good, that it's deployed to help people, that it's used to help people who may be disadvantaged, the poorer parts of the world, those areas that don't have good access to technology, that AI can be used and delivered on things like smartphones, used in education. We're seeing great strides in the use of AI for drug discovery, personalized medicine, pharmaceuticals. I mean, some of the inventions, and some of these have come from Google DeepMind, right? They are world leaders in this kind of thing. There is a potential of using AI to almost eradicate disease in the future. I mean, that sounds really amazing, but it's potentially really within reach. It doesn't sound like a fantastical goal given what's happened in the last 3 or 4 years. The use of it for medical purposes, the use of it in education, automating jobs, everyday jobs that are mundane, allowing people more time to maybe do the work that they really want to do. I think all of those things combined will mean that we can harness the good bits of AI and use it in a way that's going to help us. But at the same time, we have to devote so much attention to mitigating the harms of AI. And I think we have to actually work at that so those things don't get out of hand. And I kind of give you one example, Jen. I think we've learned from the lessons of social media, the harms that it can inflict on the younger generation. So those people that become maybe more isolated and too reliant on social media, the impact that has on society, the impact that it has on families, the impact that it has on our ability to socialize and feel secure in social human settings. I think some of those values and some of what really makes us human could be impacted. So I think the medical profession and other professionals have to lean into that topic and really think, how do we ensure we nurture a good society and those values that we take for granted at the moment? I think that's got to be actively managed. It's got to be really looked at. Maybe the use of AI will free up more people to think about those things so that we can harness the AI and help society all at the same time. And with respect to jobs, here's another one. I think some people say, AI is going to take over lots of jobs and we'll all be out of work and so on. So I actually don't believe that's true at all. I think when we look back, we've seen technological waves in the past. The launch of the World Wide Web, pretty much the year 2000, the launch of PCs, cash points when they came out in the 70s. People say, there won't be any need for banks and all bank tellers won't need to work because there'll be a hole in the wall and everyone will get their money that way. Well, look, what's happened since those technological feats have come about? There's been new jobs, there's been new industries, there's been whole heaps of jobs. How many web developers were there in 1993? Well, zero. How many are there now? Well, I don't know if you can count them. There's whole industries that have shaped and impacted and changed the world, mostly for the good, right? I would say. I kind of feel that AI has that potential to invent new work and jobs that just don't exist and jobs whose names we can't imagine because they just don't exist. So I think a lot more of that will happen. But let's use AI and ensure that we use it in a positive way. That's why I really embrace it. I say to people, embrace it, work with it, but use it in a way that's really positive. And remember, AI is just a tool. So I'm more utopian, but I don't think it's going to happen where it's at.
No, I love that. And I love the reminder it is a tool. And I talked about this in one of my other recent conversations, that this anthropomorphization of the technology or calling agentic AI team members, I don't like that. I think it removes the humanity from our actual team members and how we work together. But it can and will be and is already for many people a powerful tool. And I love your wording there of embracing it, but also how you said about nurturing the world that we want to live in involves us being conscious of not just the potential of AI right now, but also its risks, and providing those guardrails and making sure that it can move towards this utopian future, but it requires thoughtfulness and responsibility around that. So I also want to believe in, especially some of the areas you spoke about, drug discovery, improving all of our healthful years, not just longevity of life, but healthful. How do we all, and not just live longer, but live stronger, live better as well as we get older, and the promise of AI to do that, but being conscious of doing that properly and well and navigating that as well. So definitely appreciate your more utopian. Yes, I do think people also think that people who work in responsible AI, we're always thinking about the dystopian. It's like, no, we believe we can get to such a great future with AI, but we also recognize that doesn't happen without this management of the risks and acknowledgement of the harms as well. So